All right, ladies and gentlemen, our viewers, our listeners, welcome to the Musings and Music Show, the Musings part of it. I have a guest that I'm so honored to have here with me. It is a privilege, it is a blessing. She's my auntie, I call her Auntie Amma. So I'm going to go ahead just right off the bat and just introduce her to you. I'm going to read this. There's no way I can cut some parts of it out. I'm just going to read it to you so you know who you're listening to. So, Mrs. Amma Agnes Mundi began her career in education in 1965 at Sika Baptist College in Victoria, which is now known as Limbe, in Cameroon. She served as a math and French teacher. I always knew the math part. I didn't know the French. I just discovered it. At the time, she was referred to as Miss Tani by her students. In fact, I have the registration list, the handwritten registration list right here from Sika Baptist College. That's her name right there. It says down here, Miss Tani Agnes, 1965. So that's not something we're making up. Then she later pursued higher education in the United States, earning a college degree, 2 postgraduate degrees, and a Harvard University fellowship, no less. She has served the nation of Cameroon for 22 years as a high-ranking official in education. She later returned to the United States, where she has continued her passion in making higher education accessible to everyone with a focus on women. Obviously, that's why she's here. She has served as a mathematics educator in several high schools. She has also served as a leader and outreach advisor, partnering with the California foster care system. She has received many awards and recognition for her leadership in Cameroon and the United States. She's an activist for democracy, inclusive social change, and she's a philanthropist who tirelessly gives back to the community, serving as a role model for many. She is a parent, she is a grandparent, and her well-earned title of Mother of Sacreds, no less. So, and trust me, this is cutting it short. If I had to read everything and tell you everything about her, we'll be here until tomorrow. So I'm going to just give you a brief synopsis of the person that you have in front of you and understand why I'm elated and I consider myself privileged to have her. Welcome to the show, Auntie Amma.
Thank you.
Yes. And what it doesn't say too, before I forget, is that she's also a mother of at least one Sacred. Because I know there's Amabel Mundi, who's Amabel Mundi, but who's now neighbor, right?
Yes.
Yes. So she's not only just that she taught in Sika, she actually has a daughter who went to Sika as well. So,
I have many daughters who went to Sika.
Right. Well, I was talking about just the biological one, but she has daughters who went to Sika because correct me if I'm wrong here, everybody knows about the Fomukongs are a dynasty when it comes to Sika. It's not just that there was one here, one there. There's a whole ton of them. And Auntie, go ahead and tell me how those ladies, the Fomukong girls, including the twins, Tengu and B, and Sister Evelyn, and the whole 9 years, tell me how you're related to them.
I think I am related because I consider myself a mother to many children, and you are one of them. So I don't list my children by categories of biological to me, non-biological to me.
Right.
My children are so many, I can't count them. And you are one of them. They are
Definitely.
Spread all over the globe.
Right.
And so I would rather consider you and all the other Sakerites as my children. Motherhood is universal, and I stand as a mother for all Sakerites as well.
That's true. Good answer right there. So how did you wind up in Sika Baptist College? How did that happen?
Well, Lady EGBE, missionaries were the early teachers of Sika, Baptist missionaries who created the school, American Baptist missionaries.
Right.
2 of them reached out personally to me and offered me the position of math teacher, and also considered training me to become the first principal non-missionary at Sika Baptist College. That's how I got the job. I was offered that job directly by two missionaries, Miss B. Westerman and Miss Ruby Salzman.
Wow. Where were you at the time when they offered you this position? Where were you? Where in Cameroon were you?
I was still in high school, finishing my last year at Queen of the Holy Rosary College, Okoyong in Manfe, class of 1965. I was told that I was gifted and the best of my class. So these missionaries actually traveled there and spoke with me and offered me this job as I was graduating. Wow. And they told me they will give me a house, I should not worry, which will be furnished. They will transport all my belongings to the school, I should not worry. And they will look for a scholarship for me to be more. That's how I got myself into Sika.
That is an amazing story, because I happen to know that back in the day, colleges like that were kind of structured according to faith, according to the Catholic schools, then the Baptist schools. There were not too many Presbyterian ones at the time. That you had Sasa, that was Catholic, you had Queen of the Rosary, that was Catholic, and then Sika was just starting. And they tended to follow those lines, like we'll hire mostly people from the same denomination. So when they came across from Baptist to Catholic to come and get somebody in a school that was not like a Catholic school, like Queen of the Rosary College, it has to be because you clearly stood out. About how old were you at the time? I'm just wondering.
I was only 18, but I was a Baptist in a Catholic institution.
Right.
What impressed them was the stability that I presented, the fact that I held on to my own faith inside the only Catholic and only girls boarding school we had at the time. Correct. Before Sika was opened in 62, correct, there was only one QRC Okoyong in that part of the country called West Cameroon.
Correct. That is true. And I know about those struggles because my dad was in Sase, and for him to stay on as a Presbyterian, there was a tug of war, because he was the son of a Presbyterian catechist, and the pressure was on them. And many of his classmates and people who were originally of different denominations, when they got to Sase, converted to Catholicism. They became Catholics, but he stood his ground just like you did. So I know about how those kinds of things worked. Wow, where on campus did you live when you were in Sika? Where? Because I know the campus was very different from what it is now.
The campus had two major components. A main campus on which the missionary houses were situated, the classrooms, the dining room, the sports complex, and there was another annex to the campus east of the campus on a slope where they had bungalows built for the African staff. I was in one of those bungalows next to Miss Irene Martin, later, Mrs. Mbongo, who became Mrs. Mbongo later. She was my direct neighbor. And so that's where I was on campus, in one of those newly built bungalows.
Right, like when you came into the school, it was right there below, and then you climbed up the hill to go to the other bungalows I'm describing, and then further up the hill to go to the classrooms.
Yes, so I had to walk about, I would say about almost a mile every morning from my house up the hill, the very steep hill, to the classrooms. It was a very beautiful campus, well kept by Mr. Henderson, another missionary, a male on campus. I think he was the primary male on campus and the only one at the time, except for one African man who married an Indian, a Cameroonian, Mr. Fobang. I think it's Fobang, who married a lady from India, I think Mrs. Anna Fobang.
Yes, she was Burmese.
Burmese Indian, like you say.
Yes.
She had very long hair, the longest hair I've ever
Right.
seen. Very beautiful and
The
very
students used to
calm.
describe her as Mami Wata. Mami Wata was the term, they
Yes,
used for her.
yes, yes. She was on campus, and her husband was the other male I saw on campus.
Besides
All
Pa
the other,
Henderson.
yes, all the other teachers were female that I knew at the time.
True, true. The first staff there were pretty much all female. Yes, and just in
Yes,
fact, not long ago, I talked to Mrs. Sona. She was Miss Amoniba at the time. She said pretty much the same thing. She said pretty much the same thing. Yes, and we were told, you see, why I'm doing this, even as I said, is we need to know those origins, those beginnings. So we need to know so we can understand who we should be giving credit to. Because I'm pretty sure people listening to me talking to you now know you, but did not know this part of you. So it's always important for anybody to go back, to reach back into their past, especially when it concerns women, so that you know when you are trying to do something that you are standing on great shoulders, that people have pioneered the way, have trailblazed the way for us, the rest of us to come and follow. So who was the principal at the time then? Was it Miss Westerman that was the principal then when you got there, based on what you're saying?
I think Miss Westerman was outgoing, and Ruby
Okay,
Salzman stepped in for that year.
correct.
Ruby
Correct.
Salzman was my principal, but
Is
I
the
saw
acting
both
principal.
women. They were
Right.
very wonderful, committed women and missionaries, and they wanted the best for their girls.
But that,
Mhm.
that's why I feel that what this has happened is like an answer to prayer. Those women must have prayed hard for things to have turned out the way they did, and they were dedicated and committed, and their hard work paid off. You all's hard work definitely paid off. So do you remember any of the students? Because you already told us maybe some of the staff that you had with you there. What about the students? Do you remember any of them? And at 18, you must have been about the same age as a good number of them.
Well, some of the staff I told you, there were other staff that I remember before I get to my students.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Canadian volunteer, Mademoiselle Sève. She was elderly, and the students were not yet mature to understand that an older person can be a teacher. So they laughed at her.
Right.
She was teaching them French, and they laughed at her often, but she was courageous and did her job. I remember her. When you came up the Sika compound, she was to the left, the first glass stone building to the left, she lived there. And then there was also Miss Binder who arrived.
Okay.
Miss Schultz, I remember.
Right. I can see all those names you're mentioning.
There was also a Peace Corps. I don't know whether it's Danella or I can't remember, you know, having spent 75 years on earth life, it's not easy to remember everything.
I know.
Perfectly.
You're doing a fantastic job. You're doing a fantastic job remembering them. Now, okay, you said Darnell. I was looking as we were saying, it says Miss Norton Darnell arrived in 64. So you're very correct. Okay,
she was the one. I hung up with her. I hung up with her a lot in the botanical gardens. She was very kind. Yeah, she was my buddy. We'll go sip a very lovely orange drink in the botanical gardens and just hang out and chill out as teachers.
Look at that.
And so I am amazed that I could recall her.
Oh, yes,
and I think there was a Miss Glass, is it Glassnut? I don't think I saw her in person, but I might have heard of her. Is it Glassnut?
Glassnap.
Glassnut.
Yes, Glassnap.
It's a long time.
Yes, and all of them didn't stay that long. That's probably why you don't remember them that well. They came and did some time there, then some of them were
and then they left.
They left.
We heard of them. And so they were, these ones, Miss Priscilla Moniba was very, very beautiful and helpful. Miss Irene and Priscilla, they took me like big sisters and helped me a lot. Then coming to my students, whom do I remember? I was as young as the Form 4 girls that I saw when I arrived. And most of them were very kind to me. They were bigger, my age, and I was supposed to be teaching them or taking them for PE. The school made me take the Form 4 girls and watch them at PE to do the right thing.
Wow.
And they gave me a toothpick to measure their hair
Oh,
so that
wow.
their hair doesn't grow longer than the length of a toothpick, about 2 inches.
Wow.
They should cut it off, yes. Then their skirts had to be as long as their knee, not shorter than that.
Right.
So I was
Wow.
being used for being as young as them to help them follow the
Yes.
rules. And then my own students, I can remember Christiana Ewusi, Dr. Atang, who is a pharmacist today, Mrs. Priska Bumako, who is a math, became a math professional.
Auntie Claudia.
Claudia, yes, she was there. There are many of them. One of them called me from Chicago in the United States. I think she's now a psychologist or something.
Right.
Many of my students have gone into higher education.
All of those that you just mentioned there are doing awesome, are doing fantastic jobs all over the place.
All
Auntie
over
Jackie,
the place.
like you said, is in Houston.
Yes, they're there. And many of them are in different parts of the world doing great things. And the Form 4 girls I met who had not graduated yet, they were also very dynamic and very beautiful, but they were determined not to get married very soon. Many men wanted to marry them, but many of them were hesitating on marriage, which was showing a shift from the way people thought at the time. They thought beautiful girls should get married, but most of them were beautiful, but thinking of continuing higher.
Their education. That is a very important point that you've mentioned, because you see, I remember interviewing Ms. Westerman just 4 months before she passed on, and she was saying that when she even went to the delegation of education, trying to say they should add typing to the curriculum, they were telling her that she was upset that they were telling her that this is not a school for typists, it's a school for a girls' school, it's a general education school. So you see, maybe at the time, mind frames was go and get a little bit of education. The minute you come out of there, get married and just settle. Whereas people like you and those missionaries, I'm sure, helped them dream and say, nothing wrong with getting married at all, but I could still wait and get myself an education and then settle down. That would have been a very good thing to say, especially with you as a role model, already coming and working even as a single woman at the time, working and earning a paycheck of your own and not necessarily settling down that early. That's an amazing thing to hear, because that's the whole story of the girl child. Now we're seeing girl child everywhere. It's not now it started, obviously. It started way back then with you inculcating in the minds of girls that their only role is not to get married. Nothing wrong. Nobody has anything against marriage, but there's nothing, you can do the two. You can get yourself a solid education, be independent, be able to stand on your own feet, and then still get married. That is awesome. So
that was a critical point we're bringing up, because even in Okoyom, which was a grammar school where we were learning many things like Latin, physics, chemistry, math, the Reverend sisters were Irish nuns and British nuns, and they were teaching us typing. They taught us music as electives, needlework, and weaving crafts, because they felt that in addition to knowing all the mathematics and the physics, we were to be prepared for our own real lives and to do more for our communities. They were very committed as well, and they read our letters, making sure the word love didn't appear in those letters, so we should not get hooked up to boys early.
Too early. The person, the equivalent of that in our old school was Miss Binder, like you know. Yes, so wow. Just okay, to shift a little bit from the academics, I just was curious to know, because I asked Mr. Boniba the same thing. What did you do with your spare time when school classes were over, when the weekends came, then what?
When the weekends came, I decided to enjoy the Limbe town. At that time, it was called Victoria, named after Queen Victoria of England. And the beach was about, at most, 2 miles away from the campus, walking straight down. So I spent my time on the beach. I tried to go into the homes to introduce myself to the local mothers who sent their children to my class. They were very, very kind to me. I remember some names from the Ewusi family, the
Mhm.
Sharman family, the Bonleys, the Enderleys, the Hardisons, the Body Lodisons, the Body
Yes.
Lawsons,
Right.
the
Those are all,
Martins.
yep, those are all Victoria names. You've pretty much just gone through a list of Victoria names. If you're a Victoria person and you don't know any of those names, then you must be a fake Victoria person.
They were very, very kind people. They
Welcoming.
looked at the universal concept of parent and just took me under their wings. And they were very kind to me. They gave me food. They advised me how to care for my body as a young 18-year-old, not to accept rides from young men who would stop with their cars to give me a ride because they would take me to a hotel and do things to my body. So they were very kind to me, and they taught me all the things that I should know about dating. And some of them had young, handsome boys, and one of them tried to encourage me to marry their son. I dated him for a while, even though I never married him, but we're still great friends.
Interesting. I'm sitting here like, I'm trying not to giggle like a little foolish girl. That is very interesting story and so real. That is just awesome. Wow. This is the 60s we're talking about.
Yes, we even went to Bota Island on a boat. I didn't know that I could die. In fact, we had no life jackets, nothing. We just entered those boats. We called ourselves the Big Six. I was the only girl that they put in the Big Six. There was Nukuri, myself, Mrs. Beatrice Nukuri had her husband Nukuri, but she was not part of the Big Six, but her husband was.
Right.
And I was the only woman. There
God
was
rest his soul, because you're talking that name. Yes, that name is that's the dad of one of my classmates. She's Dr. Yolanda Nukuri Hengi now.
Exactly.
Wow, I can
I
relate.
knew her dad. He was a Big Six, and we went to Bota Island to find a wife for one of our Big Six members, Kwashi. And I was the one girl negotiating. Her name was Pauline. We took her. She finally studied with Kwashi in Switzerland and came back. I don't know where they are now.
Wow.
And,
I know one of the Kwashis who unfortunately passed on. She was behind me in Seka. That must be the daughter of this union you're talking about. She got married in 24. Unfortunately, she passed on a couple of years ago. That would be the daughter of this person you're describing.
Wow. If the mother is Pauline, then it will be. Then I would tell you that we went like pirates inside a canoe boat to go and bring gifts to the family to get Pauline to come to the mainland and marry Kwashi, and we succeeded.
Oh, look at that. That's talking about being ambassadors on a mission.
Yes. And
we
volunteered. I volunteered a lot in church work. We literally carried stones on our heads to build the house of the pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church. He wanted to marry Miss Broom, and Miss Broom was very pretty and said she will not marry a Martin unless he had his own house. She would not marry any man who lived with the parents. So the pastor appealed to the church, and we're carrying stones to make sure we built a house for the pastor, so Miss Broom can marry the pastor. But by the time we finished building the house, I think we delayed too much, and Miss Broom didn't wait. And the pastor's heart was really broken. We don't know what happened later.
Oh my goodness. I almost forgot what it is I'm trying to be interviewing you about, but I'm just enjoying this chat thoroughly.
Yes, it's about how I spend my weekends. I spend my weekends supporting the community.
The community, and making yourself a valued member of the community. Not just come and say, I'm a book woman, I've come here to teach math and sit in a little corner. You went out there and made, that is the real essence of being an educator.
Yes, I integrated.
And you know, we're talking about this thing like this, and I just said it in passing, math teacher. Look, at the time, even now, you don't find too many ladies, too many girls wanting to do anything to do with what we call the sciences, much less math. Some of us were terrified of it from the very beginning. But to see somebody who excelled in their class in math, that is leading me into STEM. You know how now we have STEM, we're still trying up to now to encourage females to go do science and math. So to think that back in the 60s, there was already somebody doing an outstanding job of teaching, not only understanding, learning, and passing the math, but teaching it is an amazing thing. You really are a trailblazer. And one of my aims was to make sure that this is known and that you're recognized for this. So how long did you end up teaching at SBC, at Sika? How long was your stay there?
I taught for 1 year. Then
Okay.
I wrote the scholastic aptitude test
Uh-huh.
and gained a scholarship to the United States and went to Mount Holyoke College as my first entry into the
Wow.
US. And mathematics was taught very differently at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why people thought it was hard.
Right.
It was mostly repetition work where teachers were seen as experts
Mm-hmm.
who knew everything.
Correct.
And gave it out to children. They
Yes.
memorized and repeated it back to us.
Times
That's the
table.
way.
Yeah.
That's why it was hard. We didn't relate the math to the real life of anything outside the school. The children didn't know what this algebra XYZ meant, but they had to learn it. And that's why children hated physics and mathematics, whereas they are beautiful
understand how it would be
subjects.
applicable in everyday
No, you
real
just
life.
had to
I'm going, what is
memorize
this
it.
X thing and what is this Y thing?
Yes, and we separated geometry from algebra as separate things. What is happening today is that, so children at that time were afraid to ask questions. When you ask questions, the other children laughed because it meant you didn't understand what was being taught, and nobody wanted to be seen as dull. As dull. And so they didn't ask questions, and few in the hands went up. But today, we are realizing that children come to school already with knowledge in their own heads. A lot of it. Some of it is even bigger than the knowledge of the teachers. Some of it is very creative. And that's why mathematics has come up with new ways of teaching children. And the critical thing is connecting, making connections between ideas and making the ideas relevant to people's lives, meaningful to
so
people.
If you let me know that I'm learning this math so that I can go to the store, and when I give them a $100 bill and I buy something for $50, the change should be 50. If you relate it to what I need to know on my everyday basis, it's going to be different from just saying 2 times 1 are 2, 2 times 2 are 4, 2 times 3 are 6.
Exactly.
Yep.
And it came from the colonial mindset where our textbooks, for the most part, were written in England. The people didn't know us.
No.
They were trying their best to help, but they had never seen any of us. So the texts were culturally, they were out of context with the realities.
Exactly.
When you start talking to a child about winter, that child has never seen winter.
And snow.
What are you talking about? And when you start mentioning to a child about things like supermarket, going to the supermarket to buy
you just
food.
have them in Newtown, only Newtown market down the road there.
Right, we only knew our Newtown market there. And so we were learning things that were removed from us.
They were actually foreign.
Foreign. And so the knowledge was made only for you to be literate, obedient, and just do a few things to get the accounting books kept for the businesses that were local.
Right.
And
so
you were not taught to reason or to go beyond yourself to question any teacher. Oh, the worst thing you can do is ask a teacher a question as if you doubted the teacher. You'll be removed from class.
Exactly.
Whereas you mentioned the word STEM, it just means science, technology. Technology has to do with your calculators that you're using. Science has to deal with your biology, your chemistry that you're learning. And engineering, the application of these things. And mathematics, the symbols that you'll be using for reasoning, like the X, the Y. If you didn't know how wide a town is, you would have to guess then you start using unknown numbers because you don't know before you find out. You start getting into things like trigonometry from geometry.
Right.
You make the connections right away.
Yes. All of that is going right over my poor head where I was just sitting down there, could not wait, just counting the days. Poor Mrs. Folemu right there from arithmetic in the primary school in Yaoundé. I was like, oh no, I cannot wait to not have to do this anymore.
Yes.
And that is a pity because it's not because it was just the approach then, what we knew was just the approach then.
Yes.
Okay, so now you went on and you came, which means you came to the United States at about age 19.
Yes, about then.
Wow. That is really, really young to be away from anybody's parents. Now people do it more often, but then there's a bigger population of Cameroonians out there that you come, you're going to find an auntie or an uncle or somebody that you already know, a full family here. Back then,
but the SAKERPRIDE experience helped. Okay. It helps to know people. Right. It helps to make contacts and keep them. Right. Because the SAKERPRIDE experience helped me a lot. Mm-hmm. Since Ruby Salzman had worked with me, she introduced me to her family in America. Wow. And she introduced me to her missionary base in Chicago.
There you go.
So I had a support system to fall back on. Mm-hmm. I had people who didn't look like me. Some had blue eyes, blonde hair, but very good people, kind Americans, taking care of me as their daughter. Wow. And some of them had 8 daughters. And I would stay my holidays with them, and they would treat me like their daughter. They would make my clothes for me, help me buy my winter coats, even though I had my scholarship. They thought it wasn't enough. So they really were kind. Kindness is the key to having peace in this world. If we're kind and help people, we make a better world. So SAKER helped me in many ways, that the love and kindness the missionaries brought there continued to help me inside the United States find my way. Correct. And even America as a country was very kind to the foreigners then. They gave us orientation when we arrived. They took us to a place where they taught us how to live in America. That was a government effort.
So you did not get the cultural shock that people get, and sometimes you get that culture shock and you're unable to recover from it. Eh?
No,
I think it's so tough that you just freeze and you just get set in your ways, and people end up not succeeding because the beginning was tough for them.
Yes, it was tough for me too, because I had never seen glass doors that open automatically. I had never seen staircases that were walking, and I was trying to catch them from walking in front of me, from running away. I had never been in a building where you go on an elevator to a shopping room, and I entered the elevator and I came out on the floor. I was in the first one with clothes. I came out in one with furniture, and I screamed. And the lady said, "Why are you screaming?" I said, "Where did all the clothes go?" She said, "Which clothes?" I said, "How did I get here?"
Saw. Yep. You see, people will be listening to this and giggling and laughing here, but that is a legitimate thing. Now, even those who have not come out of the States here or any Western country, see it in movies, in videos and things. We're talking about the 60s.
Yes, I thought I had done something wrong for the door to be running away like that. I tried to catch it. I thought I'd done something wrong for the stairs to move. So I started blaming myself and thought I pressed something wrong. So that orientation helped. America is a good place where people help foreigners, and they loved immigrants then because they wanted to know who I was. I wanted to know who the American was, and we exchanged information.
On a respectful way, in a respectful way that, look, this, I'm learning from you, you're learning from me, not the idea of people are asking you now, where's that accent from, in a derogatory kind of way, there's been a shift. I'm so amazed to hear this.
There's been a big shift since that 60s. I'm very glad the missionaries came out, because the Irish missionaries made me an Irish, the American missionaries made me an American, and the British mothers, we are British. So we came here as
universal,
international
correct
people. I was an African woman, confident in my own right, loving myself, loving my hair, my person, and also loving everything else about Ireland, Britain, the United States. I had not yet met anybody from China, but I went to China later, and I love the Chinese as well. People love each other in this earth, if only we'll be having the patience to know what people are and what goodness is in each of them. There's a lot to share.
That is the right attitude to have. I had a whole show before talking about unity in diversity, respecting the diversity that we have, but then still being able to look at common goals and common causes that are universal, that are just humanitarian, no matter where your origins, no matter what your origins are. Kindness is universal. Everybody knows that if I see somebody that is hungry there and I have a piece of bread, you don't have to be African or American or European or Chinese or Asian or anything to know here's a person that needs something. There's no language for that. Here's somebody who needs something. I have a full loaf of bread. Maybe if I split my bread in two and give them half a piece and I keep half a piece, it works. That is nothing to do with race. It's everything to do with humanity and just being out there and just willing to just goodwill pretty much. That is why it knows no race. You've really touched on a lot of things that are universal. I'm so glad I had you here to speak from experience. Some people are looking at you and then they're saying, then how old can she be when she looks, because you're talking about the 60s, you look here, like I look like your auntie instead. Right here. This is amazing. So what I read a little bit about your academics. So how long did you stay here? What qualifications did you get? And then how did life continue for you? Because I know you returned to Cameroon. So
my first 7 years here, I went up to master's degree and I finished my training at Mount College and went to Penn State and picked up a graduate degree there in school administration. Wow. Then I went back to Cameroon and served the 22 years in education as a high-ranking official, handling a lot of the manpower development. At that time, we had 5-year development plans.
Right.
For a country. Yes. And where we took the data from each sector, each region, and we saw how the society was improving the well-being of humans and the economy. Every 5 years, an adjustment will be made to that plan.
Correct.
I was in charge of the manpower section in education, managing the scholarship and training abroad and in Cameroon. Correct. And under my own mandate, I re-educated myself about things like the Lagos Action Plan for developing African countries. And for Cameroon, I didn't just do my job. I studied what my population needed and made sure Cameroonians were sent abroad to all countries of Europe, Asia, the Americas, so that we have a wide pool of humans who appreciate globally and can make impact globally. A lot of people in the diaspora can remember me. The one thing I can assure you is this: Cameroon has one of the highest hardworking and interesting group of young women willing to make a difference in this world in all walks of life in science.
That is correct.
And my hope is that we will continue to give a chance to women in this world, because close one eye, if we close one eye, we can only see partially with the other eye.
Right.
That's what is happening when we have a world where half the world is woman. But you go to any situation, you don't find half the impact being required from women.
The other half, that other half is not represented as much.
Yes.
It is changing bit by bit. It has changed a lot. And before it used to be, we're still waiting. We have Kamala Harris right now. That is a start. Hillary Clinton tried and had her glass ceilings. The day is coming, but in other places now we see females in all kinds of spheres, politics, in education, in the medical field, in the clergy. So it is changing. And so one definitely needs to doff one's hat to those of you who started from the very beginning, making things like this work, because it always helps to see somebody else like you having blazed the trail. That starts to tell you, then it means I can also do this. I can also do this, because somebody
Yes,
could
you
tell
can.
you, yes, you can,
Yes,
yes, you
we
can.
can.
But when you see somebody who has, because the other day here I had a little, I call her little, but she's little, in her 20s, Mbu has been out here and has her PhD in aeronautical engineering, if I remember right. So that is like out there, where before nobody would have thought about that. You're barely wanting to get your primary school certificate, first school living. Oh, that's already a big deal. Then you get GCE levels. That's a big deal. Then you get A levels. Wow. Then you get a first degree, then a master's and PhDs and things. And so it's good to see where everything started. People who, at the time, Willie Okoyong was the very first, because many people who like in Miss Amoniba's case, there was no Okoyong for her to go to even. She had to go to Nigeria. That's what our mothers had to do.
Yes, they went to Nigeria. I want to say something also, Lady Egwe, if you permit me. It's never too late to start learning or relearning, never too late. Because after I was director, had traveled the world, I still came back to America. And I went back for my second master's degree in mathematics education at Cal State, Dominguez Hills in California.
Wow.
I went now, spent 1 year as a Harvard Fellow on campus in Massachusetts. It doesn't mean I know a lot or everything. No, I am still a learner. The journey of life is a learning trail all through, and we have to keep moving on. And I finished coursework for the PhD, which I don't need, but just to keep my mind active, and I will graduate just to keep my mind active and encourage the others to know that life is a journey. There is no destination, no. We just keep learning and improving ourselves and making the world a better place for other humans, not only us. That's love binds us. That's what I say.
That's
and
your
to
mantra.
Love,
I know it.
That's my mantra. Love binds us. And to love, you have to include someone else. That's where mathematics comes in, because you have to use reasoning to include. You have to know valuing people to include.
Correct. You've tied your course content to the actual everyday life. You apply what it is that you learn, not only in the academic field, but humanitarian speaking. Wow. Yes. So this is really something. It has been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank and you. Just learning a lot. I mean, about the person that you are. I look at you through different lens, and even rosier lens after this, because I've always known you as growing up as a child in Yaoundé would look at you, would look at Mrs. Efimba, would look at Mrs. Mumbisi, would look at all those ladies with the hats and everything and say, where as a girl won't you want to become somebody?
And your mother was a trailblazer, the lovely lady Elizabeth MBIWAN. She was also a role model, believing in bringing up young children to aspire to education. She was a principal, a teacher. She was a deacon, an elder in my church, and she was very helpful in connecting me as a young woman to her school where my own children attended. So I was able to model for the other parents that I have gone abroad, come back, your children can do the same.
Can do the same.
Pay the course. Don't be afraid of math. You can do it. You can do it. And we need people to do math. Why? Because math gives you the thinking. People are trying to solve problems today in conflict zones. But why are we failing? We don't even understand the problem, but we start solving it. No. Yes. Mathematics helps you to do these things by first understanding the problem. What is the problem? What information do I already have? What do I need more to solve the problem?
Yes.
What are the precisions of that problem? What is the structure of the problem. There are many things. What can I use to solve? Can I use other people? Can I group them in other way? What dynamics can I bring in? Mathematics has been abandoned to the schools, but we need it. We need to encourage parents to go back to school and activate their knowledge.
Right. Well,
in math.
we think, yes, we think that it's a thing. Okay, you've arrived, you get there, you went from class 7 back in the day. Now it's class 6, class 7. You went to first secondary school. You got your O-levels, A-levels, that thing, and then you wear the graduation robe and you say, I'm done. You actually put a thing, full stop, I'm done. Whereas the idea that you mentioned earlier about how we're eternal learners. You keep learning till the breath is gone from your nostrils.
Yes.
You're just learning in every sphere. And that idea of people, as you were saying, people, you're a teacher, you just know it all. It was even a shock for many people to come on out here and realize, okay, you need to keep doing refresher courses. You are required to go and keep learning and getting credits in your field. You cannot just say, I'm done and I know. The things that you learned 2 years ago, 3 years ago, in this day and time even, last week even, can be obsolete already. You need to know the new thing, the new methods, the new ways of doing things. Like, look at some of us who came on out here. Who's going to take attendance again? Putting a check mark in the ledger.
Exactly. We're using computers today.
Exactly.
We're using computers today, and automatically in a classroom, in my classroom, high schools, in math classes, the computer is there. Calculators are there for the children to use to make it easier for them to see how to model mathematics. You don't just learn those symbols. How do you build models with them? You don't just take a cube and say, oh, a cube has 6 sides, but there's something about those 6 sides or surfaces about the cube. Other things have 6 sides too that are in 3D, but they are not cubes. What is the difference between that 6 side and the other surface? You pick one, the one of the cube, all those sides are the same. You can stack them one on the other, all 6 will be the same. But the other one, you can stack the 6. One side will be longer than another.
Right.
That one will be a rectangular block. It will be in 3D too. Wow. Then you begin to look, are all cubes of the same size? No, some cubes are bigger than others.
That is already an analogy right there for life.
You begin to compare things.
Correct.
We didn't teach our children like this in the 60s. We didn't make them reason to compare.
Right.
I have here a $20 bill and I have a $10 bill. In the 60s, you only told a child 10 plus 20 and he blurted out 30. Today, you don't teach like that. You teach in partial sums. You look at this as a partial and 20 as a partial. And you can group this in different ways. You can say 20 plus 10, and you can break this 20 again into parts.
Right.
Of how many 5s can I get out of 20?
Out of the 20.
How many 5s can I get out of 10?
Right.
You begin to see things now that have common denominations of numbers. The 10 has 2 5s, the 20 has 4 5s. You could break it into ones, into 2s.
What I'm talking about there is pretty much when you go to withdraw money from the bank, you say a certain amount of money, they're asking you, what do you want it in? How many 5s, how many 10s, how many this to make that, you see?
You begin to see patterns in numbers. But we're not teaching our children in those days to see patterns. No, we just taught them to get the right answer. But and the brightest student was the one that was the fastest. If you answered quickly, you were smart. No, today math, we've changed.
So people were there. You learn to put your hand up and say, I miss, I madam. And when they call, you don't even have the answer. But you just were putting your hand up.
You know the answer, but you don't know the process. And here, mathematics today is asking you to make sense and persevere. Persevering, taking time is considered a math quality. So it's not the person who arrives first that got it right. It's the person who spent the time reasoning it out and doing it right. that is the best student. So we were rewarding speed instead of rewarding understanding. That's what is changing as you're talking about all these things about STEM.
Correct.
And we didn't teach children to connect algebra and geometry. Today we're putting them together. We're making angles inside triangles. You give two, you keep the third one unknown. You mark a number X, you use some number X or A or B or C. You call that a variable. What is it? Then you begin
you're actually ready. You are just you are the born teacher, because you're actually sitting down there. I wonder how it was for you to have to be even. Okay, I'll just ask you the question frankly. Which I think I know the answer, but I'll just ask, what was better for you? And to move backwards a little, because I cannot see your eyes. Yeah, just there you go. I get you now. So I was going to ask, office, because you did office work, classroom. Which one were you more comfortable in?
I think I've always never been comfortable sitting anywhere, because while I did the office work as director, I was also a part-time teacher at the University of Yaoundé. Professor Mbasi Manga invited me to teach. So I taught statistics and educational psychology. And some of those students became teachers because of my own input. At the École Normale Supérieure, because I had traveled and exposed my mind to differences of human beings, I made it possible for the first blind student to attend École Normale.
Wow.
It took a lot. The director said, we don't take blind people here, Miss Mundi. How will he come to school? And his name is Tolefak Simeon. He dedicated his thesis there to me. I typed everything about him and pasted it on his neck.
Wow.
And invited his girlfriend to take him to class day one and place a copy, photocopied on every desk so people know who he is. And he succeeded and became a professor of the blind later. So I've done some first things that have not been heard about before in that Cameroon.
I'm quite amazed. Yes, that is awesome, because these are the things which we just took for. If somebody was blind, then you need to go to the Bulu Center for the Blind over there.
Yes.
That's as far as you got.
Yes.
You were not, that integration of people with different, what we call handicaps and things.
Yes.
It was not happening. We're not having that integration.
Yes. I transported my students from the university classroom to Centre Handicapé at EGBE, so they can see real children who are developmentally slow, we saw a 16-year-old boy reasoning at the age of 3.
Right.
And so they now knew that people can be born. They're in class, they are not stupid, they are not dumb. Some are born with developmental delays.
Setbacks. Yes.
And some of the things that Dr. Bernadette talked about, Dr. Bernadette, one of your speakers, I listened to that talk, what she talked about autism and things holding back children. Right. Some of them are very, very creative in other ways, but just nature gave them their own frame of bodies differently. We have to appreciate humans, that we have different kinds of humans, and do our best to help them succeed. It's about success for everyone, not only limited success for some.
For specific, yes.
Mathematics can help us reason and include more diversity and do better.
Right, because each time you exclude somebody, that is, you're shortchanging yourself. That's one person less that you're using. That whereas that person's own what they had to bring to the table, we are missing it. It's just like if you had the 5 fingers are supposed to work function as a hand, and then you don't have a thumb, then you're functioning. There's just 4 of them. Then that's one serious person less. So the more
Thank you. I want to say something, Lady Egbe, if you would permit me.
Definitely.
In the past, when children did not understand math, they were beaten at home.
Oh, yes. And in school too.
And in school, they were beaten. And even here in the United States, up to 2014 in the South, there were areas that had corporal punishment on the record. So we we should realize that children learn differently.
Correct.
You might have a genius child, but he is learning differently. He is not failing the problems because he is dumb.
Mm-hmm.
He might be failing the problems because his own way is smarter and shorter than the way that the problem has been explained in the book.
Correct.
And it frustrates that child.
Mm-hmm.
I had to unlearn to become a better teacher. I had to unlearn the fact that I was not the best. That child could be the better teacher. And so we should work with our children in partnership, including their own input into the learning experience.
Process, yes.
Process.
So
if you have a child failing
skills.
math and you want to call me and discuss, call me. Most of them don't fail math out of lack of the capacity to do math. No. Sometimes they're failing math because of the way the math is being approached.
Correct.
In the school system.
Right.
We are not using their own.
Somebody's listening to this and I'm going to get that call. I'm going to get that call. You can be sure, just get yourself ready because
we're not using their own talents. They have talents in them. Children are not blank slates coming to class for you to fill them up with symbols of algebra and geometry shapes. No, graphs, statistics, this, functions. And we have to let our parents know that at home, children have a lot of mathematics surrounding them. Correct. They are using tools that are round, triangular, square, at home.
And it's a good thing to start early. For them to identify those things.
Yes, we don't just identify only the shapes. They can start drawing some, picking equal shapes, grouping. They can start grouping things.
Even yeah, you're right. Even in the
grouping
kitchen,
things with equal shares.
Look at recipes.
Yes,
recipes here need
exactly. Recipes are using numbers. Correct. But that is math. But we don't make parents think they are doing math. So the world of knowledge has been put in the buildings and shifted to schools. No, we have to be changing that dynamic and bringing back knowledge into the home where parents feel capable as teachers of their own children too.
Start with.
We have to empower parents to teach.
Exactly. That way, that makes the teacher's job even easier because whatever it is the teacher teaches is reinforced at home.
Yes.
As opposed to, that's just it. When you come to school and you come home, you lock the tap. Boom, education is done. This is for house and this is it. This is school. And children learn to just dissociate anything I learned in school doesn't have any relevance inside this house.
Yes, and they can make things. Children can make things. They can take a scissors, cut a piece of paper round. They can cut it triangular.
Right.
They can put them together and put things in 3D. They can create things. That's what we want them to learn to create.
Right. Right.
That's
how you end up having somebody be the next designer, designing software and stuff.
Exactly.
That's awesome. And,
play math games with each other and do puzzles with each other. And children do fall through the cracks because of mathematics, even up to university level.
Right. And especially in this country where you take, it's not like in Cameroon. In Cameroon, they used to let you after Form 5, you could drop math and go on to high school and do your own thing. Here they take math right through to a high school, so that 12th grade as a senior, and go into college and be expected to still perform. And so
it's a good thing to require math at all levels. It's a good thing because math is useful even in history. History, you'll deal with people, numbers, events, timelines. You need the real number line. Something happened before something else. So math is useful in every aspect of our lives.
Those interconnections.
Yes, needs to be taught. Because what am I saying? Why it should be taught? If you look at the world, there's so many conflicts in the world today because people are not reasoning. We have good people in the world fighting each other. Why? They are not patient. They are not persevering. They are not reasoning. If people were reasoning, there would be less fighting. We need mathematics more so people can reason and see that a skin has no brain.
You're
Skin
talking
has
about
no
all of
brain,
that,
so
and
you
I'm
cannot
going,
judge somebody by the color of their skin. Skin doesn't think. It's a head that thinks.
right.
So believing that your skin is better than somebody else, so you're smarter, has been something people believe, that there's some race superior than another. No, if you reason, you would find that is the dumbest thing in the world to think. No
You're saying
skin
it,
can think.
I don't want us to go on forever and ever, but I'm talking about that reasoning thing. It's just like now with vaccines and vaccination, and you're showing people
Exactly.
numbers and saying, this is what is happening. These are the stats right here. People
Yeah,
who are
exactly.
actually coming down with this thing and dying, they are not vaccinated. The ones that are not. So you're looking at the thing and people are like, no, 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 and you have a different reason. That is not one that we can actually understand too clearly about the stats and things. But that's the thing. We all work with those things. You're looking at the numbers and not refusing to draw the correct conclusions from those numbers.
Right. And you have to do your own research before you believe anything. I'm one of those who did not want to get vaccinated also. And I am based in a family of doctors and pharmacists.
Right.
And they insisted, and I had listened to so much false news and fake news. And one day my daughter told me, say, Ma, you think with all this knowledge, I'm vaccinating all the people, I will be killing them. Is that how you brought me up? I said, no. He says, so if you trust me to be your daughter, you can trust me to send you to get your injection or get it from me. And I went and got my vaccine. I've gotten 2 of them, and I will get the booster shot. And that's where I tell myself that in this world, we should learn to trust other human beings.
Correct.
And we should know that there's no perfect thing in the world. None. Even the clothes we wear are not perfect. Even me sitting here.
Perfection is for heaven. It's not here.
Yes, it's not here. Even the food we eat is not perfect. It didn't grow perfectly. We don't know the person we bought it from. We just trusted that that person brought us good bananas to buy, and we eat them.
You get on an airplane. You don't know. You've never met the pilot. You don't even know if
you've never met the pilot, but you have to trust him. If you have never been to America, trust that America is a good place. If you've never been to China, don't judge the Chinese.
Yes.
And if you've never been to Africa, don't judge the African. Use your math brain and say, if people live there, then humans live there. Correct. And if I am human, then I know something about them before I arrive. They have a heart, they have a kidney, they have a lung they breathe from, they have eyes, they have a hand that could hug me. And these commonalities, they have a smile I could benefit from. On that, I give you a smile right now.
That is it. And I'm appreciating the smile. And if we all had that mindset of openness, as you said love binds us, that's the whole idea. At least approach the situations like that, from that mind frame. And then you can say, okay, yes, this doesn't quite work, this doesn't quite work. But at least instead of having that closed mindset, you just get there and it's like, it's this way, and then there's no other way different. That will actually keep you're locking your own self into a box and being unable to see all that is wonderful out there if you cannot appreciate diversity. Auntie, we've been going for quite a bit. If I can talk to you, for days on end, because there's so much that one can draw and grasp from you, but I won't keep you much longer this time around. I think I have a feeling we'll be having another part 2 of this chat coming down the road. Any closing word you have for our listeners, our audience?
Yes, the closing word will be, we are one world. Continue to be the best you can. And I will give you my phone number and my email.
All right.
My phone number is 818 620 3104.
3104. Let me say it again. Let me say it back. 818 620 3104. And in case somebody just went to get their pen only now, I'm going to say it one more time for them. 818 620 3104. So you have that kid in your household.
I want to give them my email as well.
Let's go with that too.
Mundi, Amma, UNDI AMA. Mundi,
as one
Amma.
word.
at hotmail.com.
Okay, Hotmail, like hot you yourself. There you go.
Yes, Mundi
So
is
let me say
word,
that
Amma
again.
is love. Mundi is word, Amma is love.
Yes. So word,
Agnes.
there you go. So now that is, let me repeat, say that back to you. Mundi Amma, one word, at hotmail.com.
Yes.
So, and Mundi is MUNDIAMA, Mundi and Amma together, and then at hotmail.com.
Yes, so that if they have children struggling with mathematics at any level, whether it's elementary, high school, or beginning freshman levels at college, they can call me and we strategize how to recognize this child's own potential and pull it in and make this child successful.
Trust me, there's people who have listened to this, everybody has somebody in there. If it's not your own, as you said, you know,
and how to help parents understand, parents understand the modern math we call Common Core. Some parents are struggling with even understanding what this STEM bit is all about. I'm open to helping them.
Yes. Oh, definitely. Thank you so very much. You're living up to your reputation of being somebody in the community that wants to help. So I'm going to go one last time. Auntie Amma Mundi's information, telephone number 818-620-3104. And the email address, mundiamma, that's one word, at hotmail.com.
Love binds us. Love binds us.
Amen to that. What a wonderful way to actually have to close this down. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you have a busy schedule. You are there helping with the grandchildren, helping with the children, doing your own professional work and everything, but you took the time to come out here and talk to us. Started with Sika, but I wanted us to move out of there to talk about just life in general, and then about academics and math in particular, STEM for the girl child. Thank you so much for being here. And I'll talk to you later, Auntie. God bless you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.